Hey YouTube, are you thinking about wholesaling? Are you already wholesaling? Are you just learning about it and hearing about it and you're interested in it? Well, don't let these 3 common mistakes ruin your chances of success. By the end of this video, you'll know how to avoid these rookie mistakes so that you can start your wholesaling journey the right way. My name is Ryan Perkle, and I operate Bird Dog Investment Group, and we've signed over 120 contracts in the last 2 years and closed over $1.32 million in wholesale fees in our first 2 years of business. So I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm saying that realistically, I've failed 75% more than my success actually shows. And so I failed more times than I won. I just failed fast and learned these mistakes quickly, and that's what I'm sharing with you today, right? So let's go over the mistakes. Mistake number 1 is not understanding the process. What is the process of wholesaling? All right, there's a lot of steps that are not talked about, and we're gonna cover them right here. List generation, lead generation, calling, connecting with the sellers, nurturing, selling, closing, transaction coordination, dispositions, working with lenders and attorneys. All this whole process is a part of wholesaling. So if you're not going to deliver the final product and a turnkey service to the seller and the buyer, then you're doing it wrong. You're missing a piece of the puzzle. So wholesaling is not just calling somebody and getting a contract, right? We had somebody that joined us and he was 19 years old and he was hungry. We'll just call him D. So D worked with us for 3 or 4 months and saw, we were making some money on some of these wholesale trade, and he was in the acquisition side, right? So he would call, he would get the contracts. Some of the numbers were okay, some of them. So we ended up closing a couple of these deals, and he saw these numbers on the back end, right? And he thought, well, why am I only getting paid a percentage of the contract, right? $1,500, whatever it is, for basically bird dogging these deals, and then you're making all the money. Well, what he didn't realize is how much time, energy, and effort goes into each one of these, right? So our burn rate is up into the $50,000, $50,000. So it costs a lot of time, money, and energy. So the number one mistake that new wholesalers make is not understanding how much time, money, and energy goes into the entire process to actually deliver a service or a product to an end buyer, a cash buyer, an investor, or to the seller themselves, right? That's what gives wholesaling a bad name, is the newbies not understanding the process completely, right? That's step number 1. So how do you avoid that? You educate yourself on the basics of wholesaling, right? And then you start asking questions, you start learning, you start growing, you start understanding more about, what's the conversation about? What language am I using? Am I using the right terms? Who are the players in the game? Like in my space, right? Not just on some YouTube video, but like in my space, who are the players in the game? How do I understand all the players, right? Is somebody going to show up from nowhere and I'm not expecting it because I didn't know he was going to be a part of the process or she was going to be a part of the process? So educating yourself is absolutely the number 1 underlying fact here. If you're going to provide a professional service, you have to be a professional, and professionals know their stuff, right? Including ARVs. What's an ARV? An MAO. What's an MAO? Assignment fees. How is that legally structured, right? How are you legally paid to where the attorneys, the title insurance companies, Association of Realtors, everybody's okay with what you just did, right? Because you provided a professional service. So I gave you a real example on what happens. So by the way, D, we don't see, he disappeared. So he took a couple deals from me, tried to do it on his own, probably closed 1 or 2, maybe, I'm not sure what the fee was. And then he's gone. He's not in the community. He's not at the networking events. He's not online. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to D, other than the fact that this probably ate up all of his profits. And he realized that maybe this isn't what I want to do. So, and the reason is because he did it wrong. He was hungry, he was aggressive, he didn't appreciate the education piece and the time that it takes to become a professional. That's it. You can solve that problem by joining Bird Dog REI Community. The link is here. So Bird Dog REI Community is going to educate you. Not only educate you, so there's a platform, there's a community, it's free. Everybody's in there talking about what's happening in your space, your actual community. And then coming soon in March, there's going to be courses and coaching from actual professionals. Yes, I'll be in there coaching, but we're also going to involve the people that you're going to be playing with so that you can learn it directly from them. So isn't it better to learn from a community of educators than it is from one educator, from one perspective? That's what we're going to bring you. So stay tuned for that. Jump into the Kennel Club on Bird Dog REI community, and that'll get you in the conversation, and then you'll be able to see what's coming next. You can start your journey from there. Right now it's free, so don't worry about a credit card or anything like that. All right. So what is mistake number 2? Not understanding your buyer's list. So not understanding what an investor is actually willing to pay so that you can get a fee, right? So in a wholesale transaction, you've got a house. The house either has distress or the seller has distress, right? Either way, this is where we are providing services to the seller because they've got a situation where the house can't go traditional and go through the process with an agent and the listings and the showings, or the seller has the same situation. So something's going on with the house or the seller that is going to motivate them to work with somebody like a wholesaler or an off-market trader, right? Which is what I consider myself. So then you've got the cash buyers or investors, right? So this, we'll just do a cute little dollar sign there because that's where the money comes from, right? The sellers are not paying you for the service. The sellers are allowing you to do what you do, right? To communicate with both sides so that you can provide them a service by not costing them any time, money, or energy to get out of their situation. And what is a cash buyer paying for? I've met so many cash buyers and investors, including myself, and I've met a lot of wholesalers, right, in the middle of this transaction that didn't understand the value of what they were providing the cash buyers, right? Yes, you're bringing them a house. Yes, you're bringing them a contract, but have you solved all the problems in between that would prevent that cash buyer from going straight to the seller? I was at an event last night and was with one of my buddies, and she, clearly said, I am so happy to pay you for a fee because you deliver a turnkey product. Right? I don't have to negotiate. I don't have to do my inspections. I don't have to, most of the time, I don't have to get a floor plan, right? You literally hand me a ready to do investment. All I've got to do is get my financing in place, get my contractors in place, and you've basically checked all the boxes and done your due diligence for me, right? That sounds like a valuable product that we can sell to cash buyers and investors. So that is the second mistake. You don't understand what you're actually selling on the marketplace. You don't understand what the value of the trader or wholesaler actually is, right? That is a critical mistake. You have to understand what that means and what your value is in the marketplace. Okay, let's see. Mistake number 3, offering too much for deals, right? So not understanding the numbers. Once again, this goes back to education. If you don't have your education and your knowledge squared away, then you're not going to last long in this business, right? So think about this. Everything that I just explained, does that sound somewhat like a stockbroker, right? A commodities trader, right? Do you think that these stockbrokers don't understand the process and what the value they're bringing? Or a commodities trader, a buddy of mine trades sugar, right, and goes down to the islands and different sources from the sugar and then sells them to all the distributors in the US. Do you think he doesn't understand all the processes that are involved in making that trade? Yeah, I think he's a professional. He does well for himself, but he understands the process. So, all right. So mistake number 3, offering too much money, not knowing your numbers, right? Offer too much money to the seller or the buyer, right? So understanding what the value of a house is, and then the difference between what the seller thinks the value of the house is and what the value of the house is. So how do you determine what the value of something is? My team hears me say this all the time, right? Nobody determines the value of something until they're the ones breaking out their wallet or their pocketbook, right? So the value of this home is not established until somebody, right, on God's earth, awful earth. That's a smiley face, a weird one. Somebody on planet Earth has to make an offer that they're willing to actually peel out the money for and put it in the bank to determine the value of this property, right? So how do we actually do that? As a guesstimate in our space, we use comparables, right? So comps or comparables, right? That is how we determine what the end buyer, right, the cash buyer, is going to spend for this property. That determines the value. We can look at other properties that are similar, as close as possible to the condition, to the square footage, to the bathrooms and bedrooms. So these are other homes within a certain area that we're going to guess the value of that home, and then that's what we're going to present to the seller, less a fee, right? That means the buyer, so less repairs also. So you've got repairs, you've got a fee, and then you've got the value of the property. So these calculations are absolutely critical to understand how to actually make the deal happen. Because in the last example that we talked about with the trade, if your numbers are wrong, then you miss your mark, right? So if you're not providing value to the seller and to the buyer, and then getting your numbers right, the trade's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So a good example is I know several wholesalers that went in and they offered what they perceived to be the value. Most of them, they listened to the seller because the seller tried to tell them what the value of the property was, and they used that as their metric, as their base metric, opposed to everything else that's real. And so then they said, okay, I'll get you that number. I'm going to give you that number, and let's see what we can do, right? And then they go out and they spend all this time, money, and energy on the process that we talked about before, and then they bring it to the market, and the buyers are like, where'd you come up with that number? That number makes no sense, right? My contractor has this repair cost, your ARVs are this, and I've got no data to prove that number is right, so this doesn't pencil out, right? This doesn't add up to make it a good investment. Unless you know all those numbers and know them really, really well. Drywall in your area per square foot, what's the cost of tile, what's the cost of a roof, what's the cost of HVAC, right? Everything that goes into a house, you've got to calculate that in to know what to offer the seller. And if you're off, there's no deal. You don't know your numbers. So again, education, you have to know your numbers. So this video is not meant to overwhelm you or scare you or to create any kind of resistance. I want you in the game. I want you to work with Bird Dog REI community in our space, in our community, and I want to pay you. I want to pay you for leads. I want to pay you for contracts. I want you to be a wholesaler because I'm going to work with you and I'm going to buy from you. But you have to know all this stuff, and you have to avoid all the mistakes that I just explained to be able to provide a valuable product. So what's the good news? I've spent $50,000 plus on multiple coaches, and they were fantastic. They were amazing. I love them both. I love them all, right? They taught me what I needed to know to get where I needed to be. I made all the mistakes as fast as possible so that I can get past them. And I was in a community, so I had coaching, community, and courses. Here's the kicker. They were 5 figures per program, and they were 6 months long, and they were teaching high-level stuff, right? That's okay. I took notes. I've got notepads of information from what I learned. Here's what I'm offering you. Instead of 5 figures, $50,000 for a guru coaching program, I'm talking about a few $100 once we launch in March, so that you can learn all this stuff directly from the community, not from one guy, right, who's done it for 2.5 years and made $1.3 million. I'm not the guru. I'm not the expert. I'm still learning every day. I'm going to get everybody in our community involved so that you can learn from the actual buyers. You can learn from the actual people that are boots on ground right now doing what you're looking to do. So wouldn't that make sense for the amount of a grocery bill in 2024 to invest that same amount of money into yourself and to get involved in the community? You know that one lead pays out $150. One contract can pay anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. What would that do for you? Would that change your life? Like, is that a number that would make sense for you? And we're talking about maybe 10 hours a week. 10 hours a week to make that kind of money and not put yourself out there and make the mistakes that kill all wholesalers and wholesale deals, right? So avoid becoming the statistic where cash buyers, wholesalers, sellers, everybody in the community dislikes the person that comes in because they, learned a little bit, just enough to make a phone call and, oh, I got a contract. Uh-oh, now what do I do? Right? That affects everybody. Be a professional, start small, work your way up, and we will teach you how to do that as a community, right? I'm not going to give you a bunch of, videos that are filmed 10, 15 years ago, right? We are actively having these conversations. We're going to have one-on-ones with experts. We're going to have coaching with myself and different experts and my team that's signing 80 contracts a year right now, right? So, all right. Those are the three mistakes. Don't let yourself fall victim. Not understanding the process, not understanding what the value to the buyers are, and offering too much or not knowing your numbers. Okay. Join us in the community. Check out the link below. Ask any questions on how to get started. What's the first step? The first step is signing up for the free community. But go ahead and ask any questions in the comments, and we will see you in the community and look forward to watching you grow and learning the process. Thank you for watching Bird Dog REI Community. Again, my name's Ryan Perkle. Thank you for your time.